There's a moment in difficult relationships that changes everything. It's not a big conversation. It's not a breakthrough moment. What it is a very quiet decision. When you realize, I'm not going to respond the way that I always do. And in that moment, something begins to shift. Now, if you've ever tried to stay calm in a conversation but found yourself pulled back into the same emotional reaction, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means that you're experiencing a conditioned pattern. And today we're going to talk about how that pattern begins to break. But if you're already recognizing, I can see the pattern, but I don't know how to interrupt it in real time, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and there's some other links down in the description of this video where you can get more direct help. But in this video, we're going to look at what's actually happening in those moments and how to break it. You see, most difficult relationship patterns are not random. They're actually loops. You say something, he reacts. You respond, he escalates. And over time, that sequence becomes a predictable pattern. So here's the key insight, that every loop requires two participants. It's like the expression, it takes two to tango. Not equal responsibility, but equal participation in the pattern. And that's key. Have you ever noticed this? The conversation starts, and within a few minutes, you can feel yourself being pulled into it, right? Like a gravitational pull. Your tone changes, your thoughts speed up, you start over-explaining, and then you start defending, and then you try harder, and suddenly you're back in the same dynamic again, even though you vowed that this conversation was going to be different. Dr. Joe Dispenza describes change in a very specific way, and I think he's right. He says transformation begins when you become what he calls greater than your environment. And what that means is you're no longer reacting to what's happening around you. You are choosing who you are being in the middle of it. Right? So like what is controlling you? Are you controlling you, or is your environment controlling you? And in relationships, that awareness becomes incredibly powerful. And that ability to shift and become greater than your environment is incredibly powerful, because the moment you stop reacting automatically, you're no longer reinforcing the old pattern. And here's why many people suddenly see something clearly. The pattern doesn't just depend on what the other person does. It depends on what your response used to be. So when your response changes, the pattern no longer has the same structure to operate in. Right? He's been doing a pattern and you've been participating in the pattern. If you break out of the pattern, it's a new ballgame. In other words, you don't just feel different. The dynamic in the conversation or the conflict itself begins to shift. So what does stop engaging actually mean? Stopping engagement doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean withdrawal. It doesn't mean gray rock. Please stop it. What it means is something way more intentional. You stop explaining yourself over and over. You stop defending every accusation. You stop chasing resolution inside chaotic conversations. And instead, you hold your state of calm, grounded, and clear. This is the powerful work that we do in our private work, coaching women to detox their marriage. We equip them with the tools to stay calm and stay grounded and stay clear, regardless of what's happening in their environment. So instead, you respond when it's productive, and you disengage when it's not, and you feel in control of that. You're not reacting. When you first start doing this, something interesting often happens. Full disclosure here. The other person may escalate in the short term because the old pattern is no longer working for him. But guaranteed, over time, without your familiar reaction, doing your part of the old pattern, the emotional loop has to collapse because it no longer has the fuel that was feeding it. And this is where many people experience a powerful realization. And this is where women that we're working with in the coaching go, guys, you'll never guess what happened last week. You see, you don't lose your power in the relationship anymore. It's just in the old pattern, you were just participating in a pattern that made it feel like you lost power. And once your participation changes in quality, the experience of the relationship begins to change. It has to change. In the next video, right there, we're going to take this one step further, and I'm going to show you how to intentionally create a new emotional state. So you're not just breaking the pattern, you're building something different. Now, if you're starting to recognize, I can see the pattern and I can see how I've been pulled into it, but I don't know what to do next. Well, you're right in the right place. You're exactly where real change begins. If you want, you can click the link down below in the description to book a private call with our team. And that's where, in like a 15-minute call, we'll help you map out what this shift looks like in your specific situation. Now, I'm curious about something. Have you ever had a moment where you didn't respond the way you normally did, and you noticed the entire interaction felt different? If you've experienced that, right, I felt that shift in the comments, because that moment is where the pattern begins to break.